right, so in this video, we are going to go over another example for conditionals. This one is very, very similar to the very first example with it, in which you were having a grade and you wanted to see what letter grade that you have. This one, you have college credit earned and you want to see like what status they have. Are they senior, junior, sophomore, or freshman? So very, very similar concept. So first thing we are going to do, like the previous example, we are going to get a number from user and look at that number, and based on that, make a decision of what value we want to print. So there are 4 different options that we have in this case. If it's greater than 90, we have senior. If it's greater than 60, we have junior. Greater than 30, we have sophomore, and then anything else is going to be freshman. Okay, so let's get on with it. So I'm going to say credit, and then I'm going to get an input from user, and I'm going to say how many credits earned. Okay, so we are going to have that message, and you can test it, run it, check to see if this variable works, and then when you're ready, you can set up your condition. Again, I'm going to start with the first one. You can go from whichever they want. In this case, they're kind of chained with each other. They're connected. The conditions are somehow intertwined. So you either need to go from freshman status up or from senior status down. It makes it simpler. It makes your condition to be it makes each conditions less sophisticated. But you can go however order that you want, but you need to be very careful how you set up your conditions. Again, the simplest one is starting from one end, going to the other end, but it doesn't matter which end you pick to do that. I'm going to start from the top, and I'm going to set my first condition. So if this credit is greater than 90, then we are going to print the senior status. So we are going to have that. So I'm going to copy and paste it here. And you can check this one right here. So I'm going to actually go ahead and run it, test it, because there is one small issue that we have at this point. It is very important to test your programs as you write it. So if there's any issues, any problems, you can fix it, instead of adding so many things and then you get confused of what went wrong, and then when you figure out the problem, you have to change so many things. If you figure out the issue, you can fix it, and then from that point, you can just do it the right way. So let's run this one. It's going to ask me for how many credit earned, and I'm going to put 95. So I'm putting a number that is greater than 90. I expect to get senior standing, but let's see what happens. I'm going to get an error message, and the error message is happening in line 13. It's saying it wants to do this comparison, but is not supported between instances of a string and integer. We are 100% sure 90, this value 90, is type integer. So that leaves this variable credit to be type a string. So let's go back and explore it. So credit, what type is credit? Is coming from input, coming from this line 12. Okay, do we have type integer or type numeric value or type a string? It's definitely type a string because it's coming from input, and we never converted that type to anything else. But we know we want a number. We want to get that number to be able to compare it to other credit numbers or credit hours, and then decide what status they have. So to do that, I'm going to convert it to an integer value, because credits are going to be integer numbers. You cannot have partial credit. So it's going to be integer input and then the message that you have. So if you do that, it's going to convert the number to an integer value first, and then we can do our comparison. So if we run it again and put that 95, we should not get that error message anymore. So 95, and here we go. We get that senior standing. All right, cool. Now I have that part set up. I can go ahead and write the other conditions. So I'm going to kind of go from here. So I'm going to change that to an elif. So elif credit is greater than 60. then you're going to have a junior standing. So I'm going to change that to junior, and then we are going to add the sophomore standing, which is greater than 30, and then we have that, and anything else is freshman. So we can have either Elif, or you can leave this one, just take the condition out, and just simply say anything else is going to be a freshman status. So let's run this one, and we are going to just test it with different numbers. So it's still junior status. The reason is 85 is between 90 and 60. So the credit is not greater than 90, so the student doesn't have the senior standing, but the credit earned is greater than 60. So it's going to give us a junior status. If you have something that is between 30 and 60, like 50, is going to give us sophomore standing, and then anything below 30, like 20, is going to give us freshman. So just test it, see how it goes, and then you can simply go from here to the if else or nesting. So I can do else, enter, and then copy everything else, tab. Here I have another elif. I'm going to change that to else, enter, and then tab. So now I have all of my elifs converted to if else, and it should work exactly the same. So if you put 45, it should give us sophomore standing because it is between 30 and 60. So it works the same way. Other things that, let's see, we can add here is making sure the number is not negative. So if you want to, so if I go ahead and say, okay, you cannot have like a negative credit when you get into a college. So you need to have a way of making sure user doesn't put any invalid input. So you can have that somewhere, and go ahead and try to see if you can add that yourself to it and practice with checking for invalid inputs. So, but other than that, that is just a simple example of checking the status of the college student. So.